What is going on, world? Welcome to Week 14 edition of 100 Yards and Running. I am your host, Reggie. Shout out to my brothers at the Family Meeting Podcast. But let's dive right into Week 14. Thursday night, we had the Packers going against the Lions. Now, everybody know about this rivalry. This was the game to watch. I know I watched it. I don't know about y'all, but I'm gonna keep y'all up speed on what happened during this game where we had Detroit playing at home with an 11-1 record going against a Packers team that is with Jordan Love that could be dangerous in the playoffs. Unfortunately, there was a lot of controversial plays in this game, and I'm getting into one play in particular where Mr. Jared Goff handed the ball off to his running back, and his knee was on the ground when he handed the ball off. Now, most people say the play should have been dead. Most people say the play should have been over. His knee hit the ground. But if you look at the NFL rules, the quarterback was not touched, even though his knee did hit the ground, handed the ball on to the running back. They got the first down, kicked the field goal to win the game by a score of 34-31. Now, I know a lot of people was like, the Packers had the Lions at the edge of their seat. This game could have went either way. I saw potential in Green Bay, and I've been saying this since they drafted Jordan Love. They got rid of Aaron Rodgers. They revamped that division over there in Green Bay. Now they're in a position to make the playoffs. Can they be dangerous in the playoffs? They were last year when they took out, ladies and gentlemen, the Dallas Cowboys last year. Yes, they did. Took out Dallas, and now they're on the verge of making to the playoffs again and making some more noise this year. Can they do it? It's to be determined. Sunday, we had a lot of games. We had a lot of 1 o'clock games on Sunday where the Jaguars played host to the Titans and Will Levis. And this was a low scoring game where the Jaguars finally got the job done. It took Trevor Lawrence to get hurt for a year out of start, Matt Jones to get the job done, but you got the job done. Low scoring game. You won 10-6, and now y'all in a position next year where y'all revamp y'all team in Jacksonville, Florida? Can you get a quarterback? Can you trust? Do you keep Trevor Lawrence? Do you build around Trevor Lawrence, or do you get better receivers over there to make Jacksonville a whole different team? Can y'all do it in Duval next year? Let's see. Who knows? Miami Dolphins played host to sad Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets, where we all know this year, and it's heartbreaking for me to say this, New York teams stink this year. The Giants nor the Jets make the playoffs, and I'm going to get on the Giants in a minute, but let me get on the Jets first. Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and the New York Jets played host to Tua Tagovailoa, Jaden Waddle, and Tyreek Hill and the Miami Dolphins. And I was shocked there during this game. The Jets tried to put up some points. They let the Dolphins come back, tie the score up in overtime, and the Dolphins scored a touchdown late in the game in overtime, defeating the Jets by a score of 32-26. Jets' playoff hopes are over. They are officially eliminated from the playoffs. Where do the New York Jets move from here? I tell you where they should move from here. Aaron Rodgers needs to pack his bags and try to play somewhere else. Because I don't know what's going on in this organization where the Jets only could win 3 games this year and lose 10 is unacceptable. It should have been games that you should have won. You let your coach go. You bring in Adams. You trying to get that reunion back with him and Aaron Rodgers, and what they did in Green Bay was magical. This is not Green Bay anymore. You're playing in New York. You're playing in that green and white uniform where you have this man, and y'all know who I'm talking about, with that stupid looking fireman's hat with the Jets logo, screaming every Jets game, Jets, 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 for them to freaking lose. If I'm the New York Jets in this year's draft, I'm drafting everything else but a quarterback. You need a quarterback. You need somebody that's gonna go out there and compete. I'm not fully blaming Aaron Rodgers for what's going on in New York, but he's partially to blame for what's going on in New York. Because let's face it, he's been a diva all year, and you only won 3 games this year. You let the coach walk out the door. Who else you got to blame for you losing these games? It is unacceptable. You want to know who else is unacceptable, ladies and gentlemen? Kirk Cousins. And I gave him the worst quarterback of the week award last week, and he's getting it again this week because you went back to the team that let you go in the Minnesota Vikings. Welcome back, Kirk Cousins. Yay! For them to blow y'all out by a score of 42-21. How do you let Sam Darnold outdo you? Now, if I'm a quarterback and a franchise like the Vikings let me go, and I go to a franchise like the Falcons and try to rebuild that team, and they paying you all this money to try to recreate what you did in Minnesota, and you can't even do that, Kirk Cousins. You put up 21 points. I do give y'all that. But the Vikings went in there, and let's face it, they kicked y'all ass this week. Justin Jefferson and all those guys down there that they got, Addison, all those guys in Minnesota, they was putting in work. And Kirk Cousins, Minnesota showed the reason why they let you go. I see why they let you go, because you stink. Which brings me to, speaking of stinking, these two franchises right here, the Saints and the Giants. Now, when I saw this on the schedule this week, I looked at myself and I said, which one of these teams are going to suck more? Because let's face it, New Orleans is trying to reinvent themselves on who they are and what they can do in their organization, while the Giants, on the other hand, is trying to find themselves a quarterback, and they can't even do that. Drew Lock is not it. Tommy DeVito is not it. And to lose by 3 points like this to the Saints, position yourself this draft to get a quarterback. It don't have to be a Shador Sanders. It don't have to be nobody big time. Get you a decent quarterback who can throw the ball down the field and is not afraid to scramble down the field. Get you some points on the board. And this year, the Giants or the Jets didn't do that. They let teams come into your building and they're putting up over 30 points, and you're expecting to win a football game like that, let alone make it to the playoffs. Unacceptable. I just hope that the Giants can get better next year, and the Jets draft a quarterback so New York can have something to cheer for this year. Which brings me to the rivalry of the New York Giants, which they will be playing this team, I think, at the end of the season, being the Philadelphia Eagles. And they played host to the Carolina Panthers, and they beat them 22-16. Now, I get the fact that Bryce Young he was the number one draft pick last year, not this year's draft, but last year's draft. Carolina sat him down. They wanted to see what he can do. He came back, and he's showing why he's the number one draft pick. He's showing that he could put points on the board. You didn't beat the Eagles because they had Saquon Barkley, and this is my problem with the Eagles, and I've been saying this since the first week. Philadelphia's problem is they can get the ball down the field, but you rely on one player to do so. How much can Saquon Barkley keep taking y'all down the field? The problem with the Eagles is the quarterback. Some of the throws that Jalen Hurts is throwing down the field is unacceptable. And allowing teams like Carolina to actually try to make a comeback by the skin of their teeth to try to almost beat you during this game, that could be a problem in the playoffs for Philadelphia. If Jalen Hurts keeps playing like this and y'all keep relying on Saquon Barkley to run down the field and get you first downs to position your team to win the football game. The playoffs is right around the corner, and y'all need to get it together in Philadelphia. You know what team that got it together that impressed me, and I gave him the most improved quarterback of the week, and he's getting it again this week? Hats off, hats off, ladies and gentlemen. And I know my Steelers fans is going to be happy. Shout out Steelers Nation. Round of applause. Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, and I've been ragging on Russell Wilson. I'm saying since he left Seattle, he wasn't going to be that elite quarterback. Then he went to Denver. He went to Denver, and it was Sean Payton. He reinvented himself with a coach like Mike Tomlin. I love what Pittsburgh is doing. You got a backup in Justin Fields who can play like Russell Wilson, that can back up a team and put points on the board. The defense is better. Russell Wilson is cooking. He's getting the receivers the ball. Najee Harris is running like Najee Harris. He's running like how he was in Alabama. And Pittsburgh can be dangerous in the playoffs. I get that they played the Cleveland Browns this week, but they still got the job done. Russell Wilson and the Pittsburgh Steelers beating the Cleveland Browns by a score of 27-14. Like I said, Russ was cooking. They didn't have Kenny Pickett in this game, but they didn't need him. They had other defenders that stepped up. Your running back stepped up. Your receivers stepped up. Your defense is on point. Mike Tomlin knows what he's doing. And if I'm a team that's going into the playoffs and you play the Pittsburgh Steelers the first round, watch out. Because what I'm seeing from Russell Wilson, he could do it again. I don't know. He might bring a chip to Pittsburgh. Another impressive quarterback to me this week, and he was last week as well, Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers positioning themselves with another defensive-minded coach and Todd Bowles. I don't know why the Jets let him go, but there you go. You got Todd Bowles and the Buccaneers playing host to the Raiders in Tampa Bay, where they cranked them 28-13. Now, Tampa Bay and the NFC can be a problem in the playoffs, depending on who they're playing and what their bracket is. Now, if they're in a wild card position in the playoffs and they play a team, let's say like Green Bay or Minnesota, it could be a possible upset. I'm just calling it like I see it. It could be a possible upset. Baker Mayfield's positioning his team to be dangerous in the playoffs. And you know who else is doing that? Geno Smith. You see, I was confused about who I was going to put the most improved quarterback of the week, but I had to give it to Russ. But the Seattle Seahawks and Geno Smith, you went into Glendale, Arizona, and you got the job done, beating the Cardinals by a score of 30-18. Geno, and I've been saying this about you when you was in New York with the Jets and they let you go, and then you was a backup with the Giants and they let you go. He found the right coaching staff in Seattle, and look where it's leading him. If Geno can take his time and get a line that can protect him, look at the numbers he could put up. And that's where any quarterback, and I say that because he's like, it don't matter the color of the quarterback. If that quarterback have an offensive line that can protect him to deliver that ball down the field, and you got a receiver like a Tyler Lockett and a DK Metcalf that can get you that ball down the field and put up points like 30, I see Seattle as a wild card team. Who they playing, like I said, in the playoffs, you got to be positioned to where you are in the playoffs. Because if you play a team that's red hot, it could be a Cinderella story, or it could be a first round bye bye, see you later, so long, we'll see you next year type of move. Moving on to the game of the week to me, we had Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills going against Matthew Stafford and the LA Rams. And when I saw this game, and I'm thinking about these two quarterbacks, I was thinking about how many points was going to be put up in this game, because both quarterbacks. I know that the Rams is right there at 500 right now, trying to position themselves to be a wild card team in the playoffs, but to put up 44 points to beat Buffalo by 2 points. Both of these quarterbacks to me was putting up points. Josh Allen, to me, he's an MVP candidate. You got to put him up there. Look at the receivers he's doing it with. He ran for 3 touchdowns and he threw for 3 touchdowns. And for Buffalo to put up 42 points like that, Matthew Stafford was the better man that day with Precious Nakua and Cooper Cup and those guys. They did what they had to do. They got the W at home, beating Buffalo, knocking Buffalo to 10-3, and they still in second place in the AFC playoff bracket. Getting to the number one team in a minute, and who will be number one team. But that game right there to me was amazing team. My boy BC, shout out to my brother. He said, fuck the Dolphins. Ehorns is Finkel. Finkel is Ehorn. That's funny. That's funny. Titans versus Jag was a very sad game. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. I mean, it was a low scoring game. I mean, like I said, those two teams in the future could build from this season and be better next season to probably position your team to be better depending on where you fall in the draft. And a lot of teams picked this up. And you know what team picked this up? The Bears and the 49ers. The 49ers losing players all year. I know they played the Chicago Bears, but it's the Bears. It's Caleb Williams. He's a rookie. I get it. The 49ers went at playing at home, got the job done, beating the Bears, not only beating them, whooping their ass, let's call it what it is, by a score of 38-13. This is a returning Brock Purdy coming back. You lose McCaffrey, but the rest of them players that you got on San Francisco, they balled out and they played their hearts out. Shout out to San Francisco getting the job done, trying to position themselves in the playoffs. Can they make it far in the playoffs? It's to be determined. Sunday night football. We had a rivalry in the AFC West where if Kansas City win this game, keep the number one spot, and remain the champions of the AFC West, where they play host at home to the Chargers. Where this game, ladies and gentlemen, it could have went either way, and it went the way I expected it to go. Every time the Chiefs play at home or anywhere else that for this matter at this season, getting players like DeAndre Hopkins, getting a returning player like Pacheco, you still got Kelsey, you got Noah Gray, you got Juju Smith-Schuster over there. They got some players, and they still got Xavier Worthy, one of the fastest wide receivers in the NFL. Somehow, some way, Pat Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs do what they do best, and that is continue to get W's across the board. I know this was a 2-point game. It was a field goal where the ball hit the side of the plank going in, falling in, where Kansas City remain champions of the AFC West, going back to that number one spot, beating the Chargers by 2 points by a score of 19-17. Pat Mahomes didn't play his greatest game this year or that week, but He know how to get the ball down the field. He got the ball to his playmakers. Kansas City's defense stepped up when they had to, and now them with the Detroit Lions are the only two teams in the NFL with a 12-1 record. That is impressive. To win 12 games and only lose one game in the NFL is very tough to do. And when you got coaches like an Andy Reid and you got a coaches like a Dan Campbell who build around the defense and get guys around that team to do what they need to do to position their team to be 12-1 is very impressive to me. I see these two teams making it to the AFC and NFC championship game. And these two teams right here was my pick for this year's Super Bowl. The Chiefs against the Lions. Now you got two teams that's 12-1, two teams that won it really bad. Kansas City is looking to be the only team to three-peat. No team in NFL history has ever three-peated, not even the Patriots. So Kansas City could be the first team in NFL history to three-peat and win this year's Super Bowl. Is it going to be tough for them? Yes. But is it going to be tough for other teams? Yes, because it is tough to beat Kansas City at Arrowhead, and they got that number one seed, and you got to go to their house to beat them in their house. Good luck with that. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, even Joe Burrow. Playing Kansas City at home is very tough to do in the playoffs. And as long as they got the number one spot, good luck. Monday night, last night, and I was disgusted. And I always do my worst players of the week. This week I'm gonna switch it up. I'm gonna do my worst owner of the week, and my worst owner of the week goes to Dallas and Jerry Jones. Here's why: you had a chance at home to beat Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. And when I discuss this play with you guys, ladies and gentlemen, you're not going to believe it because I didn't believe it when I seen it. Dallas, you're playing at home. Your running back was playing great. Cooper Rush wasn't playing that bad. Y'all did put up some points. But here's where you messed up. You tied the game. They were in a position. They punted the ball. Y'all blocked the punt. All y'all had to do was block the punt, put yourselves in field goal position, kick a field goal, and you got to win. What did Dallas do? I'll tell you what they did, ladies and gentlemen. They blocked the punt, trying to return the ball, but a player on Dallas' team touched the ball. It bounced off his shoulder pad, landing on the hands of one of the Bengals receivers, positioning Joe Burrow to throw a 20-yard touchdown pass to Jamar Chase, ending the game for Dallas by a score of 20-27 by the Cincinnati Bengals. None of these teams are going to make the playoffs. None of them. Will it make you improve for next year? Maybe for Cincinnati. Dallas. You have an owner in Jerry Jones. He needs to step down because every time this man opens his mouth, it makes no sense. Like I said, you were in position to win that football game. You blocked the punt. You did part of the job, right? But when your own player on special teams puts his hand on the ball and you got one of your players waving, no, don't touch the ball. What do? You let it bounce right off of you, and the Bengals picked it up, and you positioned Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase to beat you at home in Dallas. Owners Players, understand something. Understand something. When you position your players and your team to go out there and win football games, and you do part of the job right, you block the punt, but your job was so simple. Don't touch the ball. The ball was bouncing out it was bouncing out of bounds. You could have positioned yourself to go down the line and possibly kick a field goal to win the game. But you positioned them, you gave them great field position, and you give a player and a quarterback like Joe Burrow an opportunity to give it to his best receiver and Jamar Chase, and they beat you and break your hearts at home. And you have Micah Parsons and other players on that team crying, literally in tears, because it's unacceptable what you did in Dallas. I don't get it. Teams that had a bye week this week, we had the Broncos, Ravens, Colts, Texans, Patriots, and Commanders. All of those teams that I named will be in action next week as I cover week 15 of the NFL. Which one of those teams are going to bounce back? If I had an opportunity to pick one of those teams, it would be three of those teams that I'm looking to bounce back. Number one being the Baltimore Ravens. Here's why. Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry has been making noise all year. They've been dangerous all year. Yeah, y'all started off 0-3, but now look at the Ravens. The Ravens position themselves. They're 8-3 now. They play this weekend. Coming up, position yourself to be in the playoffs. I know that you don't have home field advantage. I know you got to go through Kansas City to make it to the Super Bowl. But you can also look at what other teams are doing with Kansas City. Other teams are making it close. Look at how close the Chargers had them. 2 points. And this is going to be a nail biter in Kansas City. Like I said, I get that it's the regular season, but playoffs, teams are a whole lot different. Another team that I'm looking to make noise next week is the Houston Texans. Here's why. You have an elite, humble quarterback and CJ Stroud. Go out there and get the job done. I know it's noise around Stephon Diggs, paying girls to spend time with him, having all these girlfriends, all the knick-knack in Houston going around. Go out there and get the job done. Continue to position yourself to be in the playoffs. You have one of the best receivers leading the league in receiving yards in Nico Collins before he got hurt and a hamstring injury. He came back. Y'all lost 2 of the last 3. Y'all get Collins back, and now y'all red hot again. I get that with the late hit to Trevor Lawrence last week. It caused your linebacker 3-game suspension. You can bounce back from that. You can bounce back, get a W, depending on who you playing next week, and position yourself to stay in the playoff push. Because this is week 14. There's 5 or 4 games left in the regular season before we dive right into the playoffs and possibly the Super Bowl. Man, I'm excited about the playoffs. I'm excited about the rest of these games. Another team that I'm looking to make noise next week is Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders. Going into y'all bye week, y'all got to win. Y'all put up. Jaden Daniels threw down for 3 touchdowns. He threw for over 300 yards. And looking into next week's schedule, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I said the Ravens was going to make noise next week, right? You play the Giants next week. So that should be an easy win for Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. Sorry, Giants fans, but you're 2-11. And you got Lamar and Derrick Henry and the Ravens coming into MetLife Stadium. Commanders, you got the Saints. Jaden Daniels and the Saints. Now, I get that the Saints still got elite defenders on the defense. You still got Cam Jordan, you got Chase Young back there, and you got Tyron Matthew. Okay? That's not the problem. The problem is the coaching staff. The problem is some of them players on that offense. You're relying on Taysom Hill to save your football team. Taysom Hill is not your starting quarterback. Derek Carr is. And he didn't do that good this year. Move on from Derek Carr, draft you, go out and get a coach. Possibly get Deion Sanders. Look at what Deion did in Colorado. Now we got Bill Belichick talking about possibly, oh, he's done with the NFL. I won my championships in the NFL. Let me see what I can do to college. Now we got Bill Belichick possibly coaching North Carolina football. Here's my take on that. It's great for North Carolina. You got a winning coach in Belichick who is going to teach those kids to be elite and wanting to play in the NFL and to be coached by a coach like Bill Belichick. That could change the culture in North Carolina. Back to the Saints. You got Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders this week at home in New Orleans. Lose this game. You're 5-8. I get it. They're 8-5. They're positioning themselves to be in the playoffs. Now I know you get it. You want to finish the season on high notes. You probably want to finish the season at 500. But your schedule is not looking too good for y'all at all. Thursday night football, prime time. We got the 7-6 LA Rams going to San Francisco, going to the Bay Area to take on Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers. I'm calling it right now. I see both of these teams going 7-7. I see San Francisco getting the job done at home. I see these teams fighting for a position to be that last team in the NFC to be in a wild card position. Now, any of these teams could be in that wild card, but who wants it more? Will it be Brock Purdy or will it be Matt Stafford? Man, week 15, we got some great games coming up. Join me next week. I'm not going on live. I'm going to dive right into my worst quarterback of the week. I said it earlier, and I'm going to say it again. Kirk Cousins. Atlanta. Why in the world would you draft Michael Penix Jr. and pay Kirk Cousins all this money to play in your football team? You're not in the playoffs. It's just unacceptable that you went this high to draft this quarterback and Michael Penix Jr. just to give it to Kirk Cousins just to see y'all not make the playoffs again. It cannot be like that. Now the game I'm looking forward to next week is America's game of the week to me. We got the 10-3 Pittsburgh Steelers going against the 11-2 Philadelphia Eagles. I don't know who's going to win this game. It's going to be an up and hill battle. It's going to be back and forth. I'm not sleeping on the Steelers. I'm not. I'm gonna keep saying it. Mike Tomlin is just one of those brilliant-minded coaches. He's going out there and showing what he can do with Russell Wilson, and he's bringing him back to the elite quarterback that won the Super Bowl in Seattle. That's what I'm seeing. That's what I know, folks. I want to thank my viewers for watching. Join me next week as I cover Week 15 of the NFL, diving into the playoffs. Who knows? Some of my viewers could be a special guest on the show. Hit me up. If you want to be a part of this, we could do this together. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Tune in this Saturday as me and my brother Beast, as we cover Over the Barricade. Weekly wrestling interviews, very entertaining and very fun to watch. Tune in as my brothers and the Family Meeting podcast as they got future endeavors going on. I think they got a giveaway for the fans for a free T-shirt. I would jump right on that if I was you fans because let's face it, we all doing what we got to do to support our families, and we love y'all for tuning in. But thank you for tuning in with me. Thank you for vibing with me this week. Join me next week as I go over Week 15 of the NFL. We getting close to the playoffs. It's good and good. I'm your boy Reggie. Peace and love. Until next week, ladies and gentlemen, I'm out.